The playing of our national anthem moments ago went on without any visible protest from any of the players on either sideline. Temperature in the mid-80s here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Game 3. Vikings and Panthers, teams with high expectations. And Minnesota won the toss, deferred. Blair Walsh to kick off. Ted Ginn is back. Game 3 is happening in Charlotte. Ginn from the 5-yard line. And run out of bounds up around the 23, 24-yard line. Cam Newton coming off a 4-touchdown pass game. His last 6 home games undefeated. And a guy who likes to, as his offensive coordinator says, run the ball 6 to 9 times a game to get into the groove.
Wasn't as much as a runner last week, Chris. Saw the 350 yards that he put up through the air. They didn't call his number much as of a runner, but he showed that dynamic ability to throw from the pocket, and he'll have to do that again today against these Vikings.
Ted Ginn goes to the bottom of your screen. Cameron Artis-Payne, the running back, with Jonathan Stewart injured, out 3 to 4 weeks. Payne has it, and Artis-Payne up near a first down. Second-year player from Auburn, Cameron Artis-Payne, did get the first down, and we'll see plenty of him and Mike Tolbert and Fozzie Whitaker, who had his first career 100-yard rushing game last week, again with Jonathan Stewart out. And on the offensive line, as they hustle to the line without a huddle, a steady group that has protected Cam well.
Easy. Just go at it. Just go at it.
From the 34, it's Payne again into a crowd knocked down around the 35-yard line. And this Viking defense, Rondé, one I know you're impressed with.
Very impressed with them. They're built strong through the middle of their defense. Look, Linval Joseph probably having one of the better years of a D tackle in the first 2 weeks of the season. Of course, we know how good they are at linebacker with Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, but they got some talent in the secondary too. Harrison Smith, if you're asking me, is the prototypical safety in the NFL.
There's a look at the pass rusher Griffin. Xavier Rhodes is active, the corner, not starting, but we'll see him today. On 2nd down 8, Cam Newton. Deep sideline throw. Ginn is open. He has the football, and he stayed in bounds.
Very early, confident throw here by Cam Newton. They're just playing two, and this is Xavier Rhodes out here in the flat. Needs to get a better rebound and disrupt that vertical release. And Cam Newton with the arm strength to throw it in there. Nice catch by Ted Ginn.
A gain of 31. Rhodes coming off the right knee injury, inactive, and Ginn with that speed taking advantage.
Well, he looked a little gimpy to me, Chris, on that little shuffle agility. I don't know if that knee is bothering him. Something we'll have to pay attention to as this game goes on.
From the 33, here comes a whistle and a flag.
Before the snap, false start, offense, number 19, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Jerome Boger is our referee today from the Atlanta area, went to Morehouse College, works in insurance underwriting when he's not officiating. Captain Munnerlyn checks in on 1st and 15 in the Vikings secondary. Now from the 38, Cameron Artis-Payne, nicknamed Cap by the Panthers, not to be confused with Cam Newton.
You know, I know that Cap, Artis-Payne here, was a little frustrated not getting his uniform called here the first 2 weeks of the season, but this is a perfect opportunity for him to shine. Isn't much different, than Jonathan Stewart in build and stature and the way that they'll use him in the running game today.
He checks out. He was inactive for the first couple of games this year. Fozzie Whitaker in. He has the ball brought down right away by Harrison Smith. It'll bring up 3rd and long. This is a situation that the Vikings defense loves to put opposing offenses in.
That's exactly right, Chris. This is the situation offensive hate to be in it against a Mike Zimmer coach defense. 3rd and long, you know you have the opportunity to see so many different types of pressure. Let's see what they give Carolina here on this important 3rd down.
They need 11. Right now, if they get nothing, you're looking at a 52-yard field goal try. Cam Newton from the pocket goes underneath to Greg Olsen, who's knocked down around the 30. So he won't get the first down, but he'll improve chances for a Graham Gano field goal try.
Very good coverage down the field. Cam Newton had nowhere to push this ball, so he had to check down. Good job by this Vikings defense.
Graham Gano last week against the 49ers, 4 for 4 in the field goal department. Did have a point after touchdown that was blocked, and this will be from 48 yards. Andy Lee, the punter, the holder. J.J. Jansen, the snapper. And Gano slips it through on the right side. Good from 48. And he moves up into 2nd place on the all-time Panther scoring list behind John Casey. Gano at Carolina lead it at home. Welcome back with Rondé Barber, Chris Myers. Hope you're enjoying the NFL on Fox. Graham Gano after the field goal kicking off to Cordero Patterson from nearby Rock Hill, South Carolina. Leads the NFL with a 41-yard kickoff return average. And for his career, averaging more than 30. And from the 5-yard line, Patterson knocked down right around the 20-yard line, and that's where Sam Bradford and the Viking offense minus Adrian Peterson will take over. Let's check in with Jennifer Hay.
Well, Chris, hard to believe, but today marks 22 days that Sam Bradford and quarterbacks coach Scott Turner have had to work together. Turner is the one calling plays in Bradford's ear, and he says that makes sense because he's the one who's with him most of the time. Turner tells me he's very excited because everything they would have wanted to install today for the Panthers with Teddy Bridgewater, they've been able to implement with Bridgewater. They've been able to implement with Sam Bradford, and he's excited. He loves working with Scott Turner as well, Chris. Great level of comfort.
Matt Asiata, the running back, and plows straight ahead into a crowd. Sam Bradford, the 2010 #1 overall draft pick. The next year it was Cam Newton. In fact, we have 2 of 8. These are the 2 of 8 #1 overall quarterbacks that are starting today around the NFL. And what a debut last week. In 15 days, got ready and beat the Packers.
I said it in the open that I don't think that I've seen him throw the ball as well as he did last week against Green Bay. He was on time, he was efficient, took some hits right in the mouth, still delivered on time. See if he's able to do that again today.
Asiata, the carry, goes into a crowd. And Luke Kuechly, who else, since coming into the league, he's led the NFL in tackles. And without Adrian Peterson, again, the NFL's leading rusher last year, knee surgery, put on injured reserve. The earliest he can return, the middle of November. Rondé talked about Stephon Diggs. Watch for Kyle Rudolph and Adam Thielen targets. And this offensive line has had trouble blocking for the run, regardless of the back.
They have had trouble, Chris, and they got a new starting left tackle in T.J. Clemmings. He's going to have a day on his hands.
On 3rd down and 7, Bradford does have time. In the air for Charles Johnson and incomplete. He threw into a crowd, and Kuechly was part of it.
Very dangerous, throwing over the middle. Luke Kuechly up here in the A-gap, but they love to drop into coverage, and he is so instinctive, knows exactly where Sam Bradford. I'm surprised he didn't pick that thing off and score. Good start from this Carolina defense.
Ted Ginn back to receive the punt of Jeff Locke, coming off maybe his best game as a Viking. Did have a block against the Packers, but terrific pinning the opposition inside the 20. This time he wants some leg. It's a high kick. Ginn waving everybody away. Bounces and bounces the wrong way for the Vikings. All the way up around the 42, 43-yard line. And Cam Newton in the offense returns with a 3-0 lead here in Charlotte. Panthers with the lead. Last time they had the football, they worked for more than 4 minutes. The big pass to Ted Ginn and settled for a field goal. But this is the top-scoring team in the NFL, not just in the first few games this year, Rondé, but going back to last year.
And they've thrived off some big plays. Last week we saw all the explosive offensive plays that they had. It'll be a much tougher test, though, today, Chris. This Minnesota defense is one that doesn't give up a bunch of those explosives.
Empty backfield. Cam Newton protected well, and that's Greg Olsen. He's got a first down and near the 40, inside the 40 of Minnesota before he got knocked down.
Well, Minnesota's going to sit back and play a lot of zone coverage. They're going to have a hard time dealing with this underneath tight end here. Greg Olsen right here in your slot, and Cam is always looking for him. He's pushing his eyes down the field, but he knows where his check down is. Vikings are a little out of sorts there on the edge, and it's a big game for number 88.
A pickup of 18, again coming off a terrific game where he had 5 catches for 122 yards in his 50th career touchdown catch against San Francisco. Cam Newton protected well again, floating it for Funchess. There's a flag down that throws out of bounds.
Illegal contact. Defense, number 23. 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That call is on the veteran Terrence Newman.
There's Terrence Newman right here, the vet of the secondary, 38 years old, oldest corner in the league. He's a really good technician, but the double move gets him. The contact clearly after 5 yards. That is the right call.
And the amount of time that Cam Newton is getting so far against a Viking team that has 7 sacks of the quarterback in the first few games. Handoff to Ginn. Here comes a flag late as he went out of bounds.
Holding, offense, number 13. 10-yard penalty, replay, first down.
And that call against Kelvin Benjamin, the third-year receiver.
You know, just the same matchup, and Kelvin Benjamin is so big, clearly a grab. Easy for that back judge. He's busy today. Back-to-back plays, he's throwing flags.
Newman is 5'10 and under 200. Benjamin's 6'5 and almost 250. First and 16. Cameron Artis-Payne waits for a block and is stuffed around the 37-yard line. Let's get a game break. Say hi for the first time today to Carissa Thompson.
Thank you, Chris. Detroit at Green Bay, first home game for the Packers. Opening drive, Aaron Rodgers, who received some criticism after last week's loss to Minnesota with a 14-yard pass to Devontae Adams. Pack up 7-0. Chris, Rondé, and Jen.
All right, thank you. The Giants lead the Redskins 7-0. Cincinnati on top of Denver 7-0, and the Dolphins lead Cleveland 7-0. Here it's 3-0 at a 2nd and 13. He fakes. Cam Newton trying to turn the corner and run out of bounds. A little bit of speed there from Anthony Barr.
You know, we talk about all this time that Cam Newton has had the last 2 weeks. Watch Trey Turner. He's working against Linval Joseph, who's had a great start. We mentioned it, just stoning him at the line of scrimmage. All last week, that's all we saw. Cam Newton had forever in the pocket. So far today, more of the same.
So now it's 3rd down and 12 from the 36 of Minnesota. Again, you're just on that fringe of a 54-yard field goal if they get nothing. Plenty of time. Open is Brown, and Corey Brown hauls it in inside the 10.
Just a really good throw here by Cam. Combination route between Philly Brown and, I tell you what, in the heart of cover 2 defense, that corner's got to get back and get underneath that throw, but Cam just puts a perfect delivered ball in there.
Captain Munnerlyn was on the coverage, a gain of 27. Cam Newton is 5 out of 5 already. First and goal, Panthers. Whitaker the back. Whitaker has it. And run out of bounds inside the 5. Terrence Newman is the guy who ran him out.
This Carolina offense continues to show some of that explosive nature pushing the ball down the football field. Cam Newton, everybody wants to believe that he's a runner, and when he has time that he's going to take off with the football. He just doesn't do it anymore. He stays in the pocket, waits for the routes to develop. He's put up some good balls on his receivers here the last 2 weeks.
Kelvin Benjamin, top of your screen. Devin Funchess at the bottom of second and goal. Payne the back. Cam Newton has it, and Cam Newton is in the end zone. Touchdown.
You know, one thing that Carolina always does is a little bit of window dressing, Chris. They move guys around, shift guys around, make the defense think. And at the end of the day, they run the same plays over and over and over again. And here, that was just a read option. He had the ability to leave that in the running back's gut, but he took it himself. It was an easy touchdown.
Adds to his record, most touchdowns scored on the ground by an NFL quarterback in the history of this league. And the extra point by Gano is good. A 57-yard drive, just under 4 minutes. Looks like a flag down on that extra point.
There are 2 fouls on the play, both against the defense. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Blocking team, number 92. That penalty is declined. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Blocking team for leverage, number 93. The 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the ensuing kickoff.
But Ron Rivera and Cam Newton have a 10-0 lead. 45 rushing touchdowns in his career, and he's only in his 6th year. Leveraging the center, the call against 2 members of the Vikings.
So you see 93-92, not allowed to do that anymore in the NFL. The center is protected, much like receivers are. They're defenseless with their head down. It's a pretty easy call for the officials.
So you tack on the penalty, Gano from the 50. And with Cordero Patterson just going to drive this thing through, which for the Vikings, they'll be starting out better than they were the last time. They'll come out to the 25-yard line. Cam Newton with a rushing touchdown. He's 1 away from the franchise record in Carolina, held by DeAngelo Williams. We've covered the missing parts to this Viking offense. Somehow they're at 2-0, despite, really, when you think about it, in 3 weeks they've lost 4 first-round picks, includes Sharif Floyd on defense. But offensively, Jerick McKinnon now has checked in. Matt Asiata carried the last time in the backfield. And Sam Bradford incomplete for McKinnon.
And the one thing that Jerick McKinnon is going to give you, he's a better shotgun runner than Adrian Peterson was. Adrian loved to have a fullback in front of him, the powers, the counters, all that line movement. But Jerick loves to line up in the dot, and you adds more to your offense. You could do a lot more when you have Jerick McKinnon in as a running back.
If you're the defense without the threat of Adrian Peterson, what do you do differently?
Nothing, because these guys respect what Asiata and Jerick McKinnon did 2 years ago against them. That group rushed for 1,000 yards together, had 71 catches. They are a dangerous tandem.
Set! White 20! White 20, hot!
Second down, pass caught. That's Stephon Diggs falling forward. Diggs comes in with 285 yards receiving, leading the NFL in that department. Named the NFC Offensive Player of the Week.
And he looks a little bit more stout. He looks bigger. I saw him down on the field before the game, and he was a skinny-looking young guy last year. He's definitely coming into his own.
Third down and 2. Bradford to throw. Completes. Falling for the first down is Kyle Rudolph. Let's get a game break. Check in with Kurt Menefee. Kurt?
Well, all that talk about Odell Beckham Jr. against Josh Norman, the Giants have other weapons as well. That's Eli hooking up with Sterling Shepard, and the rookie gets a 23-yard score. And look at this, 14-3 already in the first quarter. Chris, Rondé, and Jen.
Bradford, one of those 7 unbeaten teams. The Giants, the Vikings here as well. McKinnon gets out of a tackle and then gets to the 41. Ronnie, you talked about Diggs being a go-to guy, and he connected right away when Bradford arrived. Luke, and I should say Kyle Rudolph is the other guy he leans on.
He's definitely the other guy. Kyle Rudolph had a fantastic game last week. He'll need to step up. You mentioned him in the open. Tight ends in this game are going to be a big, big factor.
2nd down 6. Here comes the blitz. Bradford gets rid of it. And he was hit quite a bit in the win Sunday night.
Well, this offensive line has struggled all year. The problems in the running game are well documented. I know Sam Bradford played well last week, but he was sacked 5 times. He probably took another 15 hits or so, and that was a screen trying to set up. But this Carolina defense is so fast, they just couldn't even get it executed.
From the 41. They've only had the ball 3 minutes compared to almost 8 by Carolina. Bradford goes down. Thomas Davis with the sack.
Thomas Davis completely decimated Jerick McKinnon right here. Here's Thomas Davis. Here's a much smaller running back trying to block him. Marasiata does a better job at this, and Thomas Davis is a multi-dimensional football player. He can cover, he can rush. And they get him off on a big 3rd down there.
A loss of 10 on a key 3rd down. Vikings having trouble forget scoring, just sustaining a drive against this Panther defense. Jeff Locke drives again. Back to the 10. He lets it bounce. Marcus Sherrills rolls it forward, and the Vikings down it inside the 10. An excellent special teams play by the Vikings. Thomas Davis coming up with a big play to force the punt. We hope that he's okay.
Number 24, half the distance to the goal. Timeout.
Penalty called. That'll push the Panthers back just a little bit more, but the defense doing the job on Bradford and the Viking offense. 2:57 remaining in the opening quarter. Pro Bowler Thomas Davis, who's had 3 ACLs, checking his knee, walked off limping.
Yeah, and this didn't look good, Chris. He really can't afford to lose a guy of Thomas Davis's caliber. We know he had knee problems in the past. Just have to keep an eye on that on the sideline, see if he's able to return.
Cameron Artis-Payne trying to get outside and does. Here comes a flag as he's run out of bounds around the 22. Already 5 penalties accepted in this game.
Holding, offense, number 84. Half the distance to the goal, still 1st down.
Well, this one's pretty easy. It's going to be right here on the edge of your screen, and just watch how much he turns the defender right there, Chad Greenway. And you wonder why it looks so easy sometimes when a tight end gets that much jersey. It's hard to make tackles.
And prior to that, on the kick, James Bradbury, the rookie corner, was called for the penalty. That backed him up initially, then the holding penalty, so they're just a little further back. They'll lose 4, and Mike Tolbert is coming into the game. Spotted at the 4-yard line of the Panthers.
The penalty was enforced from the flag, and we should have gone back to the previous spot, half the distance. 1st down.
All right, so that's going to move them back a little bit further, inside the 2-yard line.
Well, the Vikings defense right now needs to step up and get this ball back for their offense. They get a punt out of the backed up situation. You're obviously going to have better field position. They've been getting run through here in the passing game. See if they're able to hold up here.
Tolbert the carry. Straight ahead. Maybe to the 5-yard line.
It's going to be tough running right through there. Linval Joseph, who I love mentioning his name, he's playing so well, and he's a nose tackle. He a lot of times goes unnoticed. But you have him in there. You have Shamar Stephan, who's in there for Sharif Floyd, who's had surgery last week. And, of course, those 2 linebackers that we mentioned earlier in the game.
Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks very mobile as Cameron Artis-Payne checks in on 2nd and 9. Need to get to the 14 for a first down.
Ready. Double 5-5. Ready.
Cam Newton from his end zone. And he's going to go down. It's a safety. A sack for the Vikings and 2 points. Daniil Hunter came in and leveled the 6'5" Cam Newton.
You know, when I watch film of the Minnesota Vikings, you know, they obviously have Brian Robinson and Everson Griffin, but 99, Daniil Hunter is probably the most athletic defensive end on this football team. He plays either side. He can come in for either one of those guys as a sub player, but he is a stud.
Well, the Vikings won their opener against Tennessee, scoring on defense. Hunter knows that's worth 2. Looked like Cam Newton had a moment to get rid of the football, but just couldn't find anybody.
Well, and then Michael Ord goes down. But to tell you the truth, you know, you talk about coverage sacks. This is definitely a coverage sack here. You know, they were going for gusto to Ted Ginn, trying to get him on a double move on Terrence Newman, but the coverage was so good that it allowed Daniil Hunter a chance to get that sack and safety.
And that is the 3rd sack of the season for Daniil Hunter, second-year player from LSU, the 8th for this Viking defense in 2 games and a quarter.
You know, one thing this Vikings defense does, and very similar to this Carolina defense, is they score. They've got 2 touchdowns already in the year, add a safety to it. That's what the makeup of this football team.
So the kick, Andy Lee. Marcus Sherrills, the punt returner. From inside the 10. Boot by Lee. Sherrills gets outside and run out of bounds up across the 26-yard line.
Here you go. Watch this matchup right here at the bottom of your screen. Watch how many routes that Ted Ginn tries to give Terrence Newman, but he is all over this. Cam Newton, nowhere to look for this football. This tries to go back, and by that time it's too late, and he's on the ground.
Cam Newton 5 out of 5 so far for 82 yards and has the touchdown run. But the Viking defense gives the offense a chance with the 27-yard line. And McKinnon stopped short of the 30. Looked like Thomas Davis is back out on the field for the Panthers. Remember, he played through the playoffs, beat up physically. The 12-year veteran told you, he said, I'm like a fine wine, getting better with age.
Well, I don't know how he played in that playoff after he broke his arm. It was, you know, I've had a fractured forearm. There's no way I could have played with it. And he's in the middle taking on all these blockers and making tackles. He's a special football player, having come back from the injuries that we mentioned. And now he's back out here after tweaking his knee earlier.
And special to the community here in Charlotte. McKinnon weaving his way through traffic. Jerick McKinnon with a first down to the 44-yard line.
This is the dynamic that you get out of Jerick McKinnon. Not nearly as big or strong as anybody else on this, as any other runner on this team, but just watch the movement in the hole, the quick hitting, changing direction type of player, and he's tough. That's what I love about Jerick McKinnon. He'll put his head down and go through traffic and run over players. He's only 5'9", about 200 pounds, but he is a good football player.
3rd year from Georgia Southern. He was a triple option quarterback back there. Bradford, quick throw, coverage good, and ruled incomplete. Looked like it might have been intercepted. Going to the ground ahead of Stephon Diggs was Bradbury.
Well, Bradbury, obviously a rookie, and each game, in 3 games, he's gotten better each week. Look at him sit on this route, confident that he's not going to get run by, and they might want to review this. That is very close to being an interception.
Now, had it been called an interception,
now it hit the ground.
Turnovers automatically reviewed, not worth a challenge for Ron Rivera. 2nd and 10, Viking 44-yard line. Bradford to Cordero Patterson, who breaks a tackle and gets into Carolina territory using that huge frame of his. That is the end of the opening quarter here in Charlotte, North Carolina. The hometown Panthers leading the Vikings 10-2. Fox NFL Sunday returns after these messages. outside the stadium without protest. The game inside, moving forward. 140th straight sellout here on 3rd down and 2 for the Vikings. Bradford, sideline open. Charles Johnson can't hold it. Darryl Worley, the rookie corner, had come in at that spot. Johnson had him beat.
Well, this was looking like it was going to be a spectacular catch by Charles Johnson. Double move, clearly beat. No panic in this kid. Comes in and finishes on the ball. What a great play by the young corner.
James Bradbury at one corner, Darryl Worley at the other. The rookies holding up well for the Panthers, who force a 4th down. And Jeff Locke, his territory, a specialist, dropping the ball inside the 10. His specialty, I should say, is Ted Ginn is back there. Waves for the fair catch and has it at the 10-yard line. Our view from Charlotte. The unbeaten Vikings, Rondé Barber, Chris Myers, and the defending NFC champion Panthers. What stood out so far?
Well, the defense of the Carolina Panthers. And we knew how explosive this offense looked last Sunday night, that Minnesota offense, but just stymied so far by a very, very good Carolina defense. Good start on offense and defense for these Panthers.
And the Viking defense producing points. Well, they have safety.
Yeah, and they haven't had a chance to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback yet. They're playing a lot of soft zones, and really Cam Newton, I'm just impressed with how he's developed over the course of a year and a half now. And if you give him that much time, he's going to dice you up. He's done it early. He did it all day last week. Let's see if he continues on that hot streak.
That last series, remember, penalties backed them up and put them in a situation where he was throwing from his own end zone. So they're at the 10-yard line now. Cameron Artis paying the back.
Even Ohio, even Ohio. Even Ohio, ready.
He gets the football, waiting for blocks, and picks up a couple of yards. Cam Newton through the air has been perfect so far. Panthers came in as the leading rushing team, and the Vikings one of the worst.
Well, you know that Carolina is always going to rush the ball well with Cam Newton as an option, and Jonathan Stewart's injury, it's hurtful, of course, but Cam actually told us it's better that it happens early in the year dealing with this adversity. So these two runners, Cameron Artis Payne and Fozzie Whitaker, get a chance to know what it's like to play in these big games.
On 2nd and 7, Cam Newton looks the other way and flips to Payne. Artis Payne with blockers on a screen, has a first down, tackled from behind by Harrison Smith, or he might still be running.
This little screen set up, and very good by Cam Newton. Watch how he just draws the rush in, takes his time, patient, dumps it off to his back, who does a great job slipping out. Just telling you, this Carolina offense continues to evolve and do the little things well.
After a gain of 11, up to the 24-yard line. Cam Newton looked at Corey Brown. Now he has to get rid of it. You saw Greg Olsen double covered, had a flag down.
When that penalty's thrown, we'll see, but I think it might be an illegal man downfield.
Ineligible player downfield, offense, number 68. 5-yard penalty, replay, first down.
On the left guard, Andrew Norwell, and this is what happened the last time. Penalties backing up the Panthers, and then the Viking defense seizing the opportunity.
But this offense is good enough to overcome those penalties. It's the ones, the stupid ones, and we haven't seen them do that at all. 5-yard penalties, I'm fine with it.
You're okay with that?
Cam Newton's good enough to get those 5 yards back on any play.
Well, Kelvin Benjamin hasn't caught a pass yet. I don't think they've targeted him. At the bottom of your screen, Cam Newton hands off to Artis Payne. He slips out of one tackle, so he doesn't lose yardage, but it's going to bring up 2nd and long.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned Kelvin Benjamin with Xavier Rhodes in the lineup. It's a much better matchup for the Vikings on defense, size-wise. Trey Waynes and Terrence Newman just physically can't match up with number 13 or number 17 really on the Carolina defense, but he is an asset. You know, they played together at Florida State.
Yeah, and 2 years ago when Benjamin was a rookie, Roach did a good job covering Kelvin Benjamin. 2nd and 12. Cam Newton firing in the middle of the field. He's got Ted Ginn for a first down at the 44-yard line.
You got the Giant on the other side. You got the speedster on this side. Ted Ginn still fast coming out of his break. Very nice route on that in cut. Great delivery again by Cam Newton.
And they go without a huddle to the line, spotted at the 45. Good enough for a first down, and Cam Newton 7 out of 7. And 5 different receivers or 5 different Carolina players have caught the football. Extra pressure picked up. Cam Newton gets knocked down. It's Daniil Hunter again. Let's check on Cam Newton. Looks like Linval Joseph got credit for the actual takedown of Cam Newton. See if he's okay.
Linval Joseph, I'm very high on this guy as a defensive tackle, and Cam looks all the while to be escaping this, but it's his ankle, it looks like, right there where he got rolled up under Linval Joseph, his shoulder pads.
Derek Anderson getting loose. And they're going to either charge a timeout or have him come out for a play.
Cam's one of the toughest dudes I covered and played against, so you know, I think unless it's broken, he's playing. And obviously he'll come out for this one snap.
It's worth pointing out Joe Webb is active as Cam Newton sits down trying to work through it.
I think he sat down there to give Derek Anderson a little more time to warm up.
Really, you guys do that?
I mean, you know, there's some gamemanship involved, right? It's got to be.
Anderson's a veteran, a 12-year veteran, his 6th year with the Panthers. Again, Joe Webb, as the 3rd quarterback and a special teams player, is active this week. He was not last week. Newton helped up. And he'll sit out for at least this moment. And for Derek Anderson, he played briefly in a mop-up role in 3 games last year. In 2014, he started in week 1 and week 14 and had victories for this team. Fozzie Whitaker in at running back on 2nd down at 14. Corey Brown knocked down short of the 45-yard line. And here comes Cam Newton.
Well, Derek Anderson comes in, completes one pass, and take another look at this injury. And again, I think it's just that little clip on the back of his ankle, probably a little discomfort, but like I said, this is the toughest quarterback, not only the biggest, the toughest quarterback in the NFL. I don't see that little nick bothering him.
Well, he wears a lot of padding, body armor, as he calls
yes,
it.
He does.
and Derek Anderson will love putting that on his stats. On 3rd and 11, he hesitates, and open is Whitaker. He puts a move on. Whitaker. There's a flag down. He's inside the 20, down the sideline, and Whitaker goes out of bounds before he got to the end zone, but the flag is back at the 46 of Carolina.
And unfortunately, Chris, this is coming back.
Illegal block in the back. Offense, number 13. 10-yard penalty. Replay, 3rd down.
That's the 2nd penalty in this game on Kelvin Benjamin.
And just watch as he turns around, and bam, easy call. Fozzie Whitaker did a great job in space right there on those 2 would-be tacklers. One of them was Anthony Barr, just left him in his standing still, but the penalty puts it back to now 3rd and 11, maybe even 3rd and 15 now for the Carolina Panthers.
It wipes out what would have been a 56-yard gain. Spotted back at the 44. It'll be 3rd down and 11.
This Vikings defense is looking a little porous to me, Chris, and I know how good they've been. They're a very conservative defense. I know we talk about how aggressive they are on 3rd down, but today they've been pretty wide open. There's been some spots for Cam Newton to make some plays.
Cam Newton, he's yet to throw an incomplete pass. Mike Tolbert takes that one and is knocked down as he gets just across midfield.
I don't think Ron Rivera was very happy with Benjamin.
You saw Benjamin kind of tap his helmet after that penalty.
That's what you call a scowl.
Okay. 2 of them here in the first half of the game on Benjamin, and that one was costly. Marcus Sherrills in his 6th season. Back to receive the punt of Lee. A booming kick and a fair catch at the 11-yard line of Minnesota. And it looks like another flag is down.
Illegal motion, kicking team, number 26. 5-yard penalty, replay, 4th down.
And they're going to make them kick this again, Chris, and you got a fair catch out of your return team. This is definite disadvantage for the guys in white here because they got to run down again and cover, and a little extra yardage, I would not be surprised to see it return.
Darryl Worley, the rookie, called for the infraction. Could have had the option of tacking on the yardage, but
yes.
Be careful with Andy Lee, though. His 7 punts, averaging almost 54 yards. He's hit a 76-yarder this year. Late getting one of the special teams players out on the field for Carolina. Sherrill standing at the 10. And Lee drives it deeper. It sticks, and it sticks. And stays at the 5-yard line, and there's another flag down.
During the kick, holding, receiving team, number 56. Half the distance to the goal. Minnesota keeps the ball. 1st down.
The Vikings lost. They would have been at the 11. Now they're backed up inside their own 5 after another penalty. Minnesota on offense, trailing by 8. 2 blocks away from the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina. Bank of America Stadium. The Vikings backed up. Manasiana knocked down right away. Kurt Coleman up from his safety spot. Cam Newton with a touchdown run. Both he and Thomas Davis beat up, stepped away for a moment, but are back playing. And Sam Bradford, after going 22 of 31 against the Packers Sunday night, is 3 out of 8 so far. 59! No gain on that last play. Adam Thielen is in. Ball goes low to him. It'll be 3rd down.
Well, not only is he 3 of 8 as an offense, they only have 34 yards on the day. And again, Thomas Davis, with the pressure off the edge, forces Sam Bradford into a bad throw here. He had his receiver, but the pressure is consistent. They got a big 3rd down now, backed up.
From his own end zone, Bradford completes, but Thielen short of the 1st down. Run out of bounds by Robert McClain.
Good defense, again, by Carolina. You know, they bring some pressure, and Sam Bradford has to get rid of the football quickly. Very similar to what we were talking about the other way. Ted Ginn back here as a returner. Could put them in scoring position real quick.
Jeff Locke will be punting out of his own end zone. Ted Ginn back, chance for a return. Good field position for the Panthers. Or maybe putting the pressure on the punter. Locke gets it away. It's a high kick that comes down around midfield. Ginn has it. And knocked down right at the 50. And there's another flag down. And a member of the Panthers slow to get up. David Mayo being helped. And down again on the field.
Illegal use of hands. Hands to the face. Kicking team, number 27. The 10-yard penalty will be added to the dead ball spot. Carolina keeps the ball. First down.
Jaron Kearse called for the penalty. That'll enhance the field position for Carolina. They'll be inside the 40 of Minnesota. Speaking of weird, all right. Hey, they're having a good time. The crowd enjoying a game, a defensive struggle against two offenses that were on target last week. From the 43, Cameron Artis-Payne. He's been carrying the workload. He gets inside the 40 of Minnesota on a first down run. We've seen Fozzie Whitaker carry the ball. Mike Tolbert, who's primarily a fullback but can also be a halfback in this offense. Those are the only three backs that are up for Carolina on second down at 6.
Hey, Stanley. Stanley. Ready.
It's Artis-Payne again. It'll bring up third down. Need to get to the 32 of Minnesota for a first down. Just over 7 minutes to go. Conservative play calling, considering where they are on the field.
You know, I think they always want to be true to who they are, and they want to run the football when they get the opportunity. And you know, been balanced so far today. 12 runs, 12 passes. You know, I think Cam Newton does a good job now of identifying fronts and making changes in the play. We saw it right there. Third down now. They got 6 yards to get. Let's see what Cam Newton decides to call here.
Extra pressure. Cam Newton. It's incomplete for Devin Funchess. The coverage was good. Let's check back in with Carissa Thompson.
Thanks, Chris. Arizona at Buffalo. News of the week. Bills fired their offensive coordinator, Greg Roman. Offense doing just fine right now. LaShawn McCoy's 5-yard touchdown run, his second of the day. Bills up 17-0. Chris Ronde again.
All right, thanks, Carissa. That's a shocker. The Bills shutting out that Cardinal offense. Panther fans remember when Arizona came here and the Panther defense dominated Carson Palmer and Arizona. This is a 54-yard try for Graham Gano. It's up there. It's out there. Oh, and it hit the upright. You could hear it echoing through the stadium. He couldn't help it with the body language. He made from 48. He misses this one. After the missed field goal, hit the upright from 54 yards away. Best field position for the Viking offense, starting from the 45-yard line of Minnesota. And Bradford, incomplete. Low to Stephon Diggs.
Gotta wonder, you know, the missed field goal, right? Gives them much better field position. Best field position of the day, like you said. But it's up to Minnesota now to take advantage of it.
He hit the upright on the right side. Remember in the opener against Denver, he was wide left from 50 yards, or this Panther team would be undefeated. Jerick McKinnon checks in on 2nd and 10. Viking offense has yet to get it going. McKinnon the pitch. He turns the corner, but he's run out of bounds. Kuechly.
Now they have definitely struggled running the football this year. They've had 2 additions on the offensive line in Alex Boone and Andre Smith, but it really has not helped. Those numbers last in the NFL are shocking when you think that this team with Adrian Peterson, one of the best runners of all time, can't get it going.
Charles Johnson checks in. And that looks like Alex Boone. Over on the sideline it is the left guard in some pain. On 3rd down and 7, a tipping point for this Viking offense. Jeremiah Searles is in at that position for Boone, but they don't take advantage of this opportunity. The frustration could mount for this Viking offense. And Bradford goes down. Carolina with a sack from LeVar Edwards. That's 2 today.
You know, Mike Zimmer is the inventor of this double-A stuff, with the linebackers sitting in the line of scrimmage, making it all look like blitz. But what they do and do well is drop back in coverage. Sam Bradford is confused by the look. A sack by the D-line of the Panthers.
Ted Ginn back, hoping for a return opportunity, standing at the 15 of the Panthers. Jeff Locke from the 30 of Minnesota. High kick. Lets it go and down. A field position gain continues as Cordero Patterson, the return man, got down there to down it around the 2. Defense dominated game, and Carolina leads 10-2. Stadium-sized content. Watch live local Sunday games on your smartphone with NFL Mobile. Backed up in their own end zone in the field position game. The Panthers lead 10-2. And Tolbert gets up to about the 4-yard line. The Vikings, by the way, 5 drives, 5 punts. 3 times they've gone 3 and out against the Carolina defense. And now the Carolina offense with under 5 minutes to go, protecting an 8-point lead.
We got to give a lot of credit to this Vikings defense here over the course of the second quarter, because they gave up those 2 quick scores, the field goal and then the touchdown. They've held tight here. See if they can do that again. Keep Carolina Panthers backed up here.
Cam Newton went out for a play, came back in. Here he keeps waiting for a place to run to, and it'll be 3rd down. It seemed like since that point, the offense has stalled for the Panthers.
No, and I don't know that there's anything going on. But maybe they are a little cautious with Cam. There's been, I think, 5 straight run plays the last 2 drives.
Let's check in on Alex Boone with Jennifer.
Well, Chris, the hits keep coming for this Vikings squad. Right now, Boone nursing a right knee and groin injury. He is on the cart back to the locker room. Meanwhile, Everson Griffin already back in the locker room. He was throwing up here on the sidelines earlier and was taken into the locker room for some extra fluid. So certainly the heat and humidity playing a role today, Chris.
Thanks, Jen. 3rd and 6 from his own end zone. Cam Newton hesitates and then overthrows Greg Olsen. The coverage was excellent by the Viking defense, and it's 4th down.
Well, they didn't have a lot of guys out in that pass route. They were trying to protect Cam Newton, and he had time, just really nowhere for him to go. And again, another good stop by this Minnesota defense. Now they need a return, Chris, and get some positive field position here and see if they can go in and score some points.
Marcus Sherrills, you're speaking from the Viking point of view, and Panther fans remember a couple of years ago, this Mike Zimmer Viking team was up in Minnesota, but they blocked 2 punts in beating the Panthers. They play for a return here, and a good kick by Andy Lee, high. And at the 46 of Minnesota, Sherrills, he slips through. Marcus Sherrills down the sideline, and a touchdown Vikings on the punt return. 54 yards.
Well, that's one way to score. Not going to do it on offense, Chris. Just do it on defense and special teams. Good teams have that ability, and Marcus Sherrills, he's almost solely a special teams guy at this point in his career. But I want you to pay attention to these outside guys. They are completely dominated, and when they get taken care of, there's no immediate pressure on the returner, and you just need a couple of seams, and he found them. Good block on the punter by Thielen, and touchdown. hardest job in football, being number 42 in white right there, number 26 Worley here. You got to beat two guys, and if you don't do your job on that play, touchdowns happen.
And the Blair Walsh project continues. He misses the extra point. And for Viking fans, it's a horror show right now when he's kicking. Marcus Sherrill's fourth career punt return for a touchdown. Now, we asked Mike Zimmer about his kicker, and he said, I'm confident in Blair Walsh. He had a good game last week against Green Bay, but missed an extra point and a couple of kicks against Tennessee. And Viking fans will not forget what it looked like they had Seattle beat in the NFC wildcard game last year. 26 seconds left. Vikings down one. A 27-yard field goal attempt is wide left. And prior to that kick, Walsh was 10 for 10 from inside the 30.
Blair Walsh, it's a confidence thing, Chris. That's all it is. You know, talking to their special teams coach earlier today, he knows he has the leg. He has the strength. He has everything else positive going for him, but he is definitely down on confidence right now.
Well, and you wonder, given there's Mike Prefer, the special teams coach, who's frustrated, why you wouldn't go for two in that situation, given the unique score after the earlier safety.
Certainly that option was there to go for two to tie up the football game, but you know, earlier in the game wasn't crucial. And to be honest with you, they probably want to keep giving Blair Walsh opportunities to kick the football. He's got to get back on track if this team's going to win games here today and in the future.
Prefer's special teams doing a good job on the punt return, but then the missed extra point by Blair Walsh. Touchback, 25-yard line. Carolina will take over on offense now with a 2-point lead. Tomorrow morning, don't miss Skip and Shannon. We'll break down all the NFL action from the weekend. Undisputed. Weekdays, 9:30 Eastern, that's 6:30 Pacific. Only on FS1. Well, we saw the Vikings win the opener against Tennessee that way, with defense, special teams playing it close, not a lot of offense. And last week they got the spark from their quarterback, and now in a 2-point deficit against Cam Newton. Remember, this Panther team, their last 7 home games, they've averaged 40 points a game.
And they started slow last week, too. They started slow every week so far this year, but they make the adjustments, and they get hot in the second half. See if they can get something going here before that 2-minute warning.
Cam Newton to throw. And incomplete. Took a while to develop after hitting his first 9. He's missed his last 2.
Yeah, most of that yardage there was early in the football game, all those passing yards. Really, the game is slowed. It feels like the energy on both sides of the ball has waned a little bit.
And we have 2 defenses, Rondé, in Minnesota and Carolina, that they are kings of the takeaway. Each came in with 6. We haven't had a turnover yet. Protection for Cam Newton, who rifles it to the sure-handed Greg Olsen. Just short, as you can see, of the first down. He didn't like the spot. The official was right there at the 34-yard line.
Big third down here, Chris. Carolina's been somewhat stymied the last couple of times they've had the football. If you're rooting for the guys in white, you need a conversion right now.
Does Cam keep it? Yes, he does. We'll check in on where they spot that. Let's check back in with Carissa Thompson.
Thanks, Chris. Let's head back to New York. Redskins' Deshaun Jackson with a 44-yard touchdown catch from Kirk Cousins. Jackson's first touchdown catch of the season. Giants up 21-16 in this one. Chris, Rondé, and Jen.
All right, thanks, Carissa. A lot of points in that one. Green Bay leads Detroit 31-3. That was a first down lunge for Cam Newton, so just beyond the 35-yard line. And the 2-minute warning is coming up. Ball snapped just in time, and Newton's throw is on time to Greg Olsen, who gets across the 45. They say he stayed in bounds, so that'll take us to the 2-minute warning. The Panthers with a 10-8 lead over the Vikings, and Carolina on the move. You can follow your favorite team all season long. Go to itunes.com/NFL. First down from just beyond the 45 of Carolina. They have all 3 of their timeouts. Everson Griffin over on the sideline. Daniil Hunter, who has a sack in the game on the defensive line for Minnesota. And Newton rifles a throw, and on the ground already, looked like he slipped, was Ted Ginn and couldn't hold it. So now 6 different receivers have caught a Cam Newton pass, but none of them Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, you're in your 2-minute offense, Chris, and Kelvin Benjamin's actually coming out of the game. Devin Funchess checks in, and surprising that he hasn't been involved. He had such an explosive game last week, but hasn't been targeted much, and when he hasn't come down with the completion.
Pass is caught, and that's Ginn down to about the 45. It'll be short of the first down.
Well, I think right now what you're going to see is Carolina methodically try to move this ball down the field. They don't get the ball at halftime. They're looking for that last score of the half. See if they can convert on 3rd down here and keep this drive going.
Everson Griffin is back in on the defensive line on 3rd down and 2. Panthers have had the ball in this game twice as long as the Vikings, yet they only have a 2-point lead. Fozzie Whitaker into a crowd. Maybe that extra effort good enough or close enough for a measurement. And they say first down, and it looks like a timeout by Carolina. Panthers will have 2 timeouts remaining. Let's step aside, check in with Kurt Menefee. What's up for the Visa halftime report? First down inside the 45 of the Vikings. 57 seconds and 2 timeouts. Mike Tolbert has it. He's down to the 36-yard line of the Vikings, and another timeout by the Panthers. So the goal here, right, Rondé, is use as much of the clock and get as many points as you can so that the Vikings have no time left before the half.
Absolutely. We'll take shots at the end zone. They'll try to score, but again, you don't want to give Minnesota, not that Minnesota's done much on offense today, but you don't want to give them the ball back as they're getting it at halftime as well.
And the Visa halftime coming up, that giant Redskin game, it's more than just about Norman and Odell Beckham. It's 21-16, the Giants leading, nearing the half. Buffalo upsetting Arizona at the moment, 17-0. Green Bay up 21 on Detroit, and Cincinnati a 4-point lead on the Broncos. Panthers scored first on a field goal, then a Cam Newton touchdown run, a safety from Mike Zimmer's team, and then a punt return by Marcus Sherrills with a missed extra point. Extra pressure on Cam Newton. He tries to spin out of it, but brought down by Everson Griffin. A sack for the Vikings.
Everson Griffin, Tom Johnson together combined for this, and they brought the house here. Look at that swim move on the guard there by Tom Johnson. Everson Griffin back in the game after a little upchucking or whatever. Gets his hands on the big quarterback, gets him to the ground.
Griffin wouldn't let go of the jersey. A 12-yard loss, and it pushes him out of field goal range. On 3rd and 15. Time for Newton going deep. And intercepted. The ball hung in the air. It's a Viking takeaway for Trey Waynes, who, remember, ended Aaron Rodgers and the Packers' threat last week with an interception.
Well, 3rd and long. No reason not to just take a shot down here. It's going to equate just as well as a punt if you're Cam Newton, but you got your fastest receiver. If he puts it out in front of him, it could have been a chance for a touchdown. But Trey Waynes, who I think struggles a little bit playing the ball down the field, does a great job here securing that interception.
The speedy Ted Ginn was open for a moment down the sideline. Cam frustrated that he couldn't get it to him. As for Wayne's, Mike Zimmer talked about they look for a certain type of corner. He's angular, his second year. Of course, you got Xavier Rhodes. He also likes Mackenzie Alexander, their second-round draft pick from Clemson. But the 7th takeaway for the Viking defense this season in 2.5 games. So even though Sam Bradford has struggled on this Viking offense, Rondé, Minnesota is in position to win this football game if they can produce some points in the second half.
Struggling would be putting it very mildly. Sam Bradford's 4 of 11 for 26 yards and not really doing much in terms of passing, and they really haven't gotten that running game going much either.
Is there a concern Sam Bradford, quickly he played in a couple of weeks the offense at home. Of course, now he's on the road in terms of calling the signals, communicating with people.
That's a great point, and it hasn't been as loud in here. We haven't had the big plays that you have been seeing out of Carolina. But yes, being on the road for the first time, having to deal with somewhat of the adversity playing in here could be affecting Sam Bradford.
Vikings get the ball to start the second half. Panthers lead by 2. Let's head to Los Angeles. The Visa Halftime Report. Kurt Menefee and the guys. Today's excitement brought to you by the new Nissan Titan. The Vikings with a defensive score. Daniil Hunter with a safety on a sack of Cam Newton. Marcus Sherrills with a punt return, 4th in his career. And Cam Newton running one in. Panthers leading 10-8. Minnesota with a missed extra point. That was today's excitement brought to you by the new Nissan Titan. In the broadcast booth with Rondé Barber, Chris Myers, and nice to have you watching the game along with us. Well, let's talk about the Viking offense. When they had Adrian Peterson, they averaged only 47 yards on the ground per game in the first 2. Without him, they've only run for 26 today.
Well, I'm glad we had some Nissan excitement because there hasn't been any excitement out of their offense today, Chris. And really, you got to ask yourself why. It's because they cannot convert on third downs. Last week, they were 28%. So far today, they've only converted 1 out of 6. So that has to get better. They have to run the football, give themselves manageable third downs, and keep the chains going.
Now, I know he's facing a defense that's one of the best in the league, but Sam Bradford looks like a different quarterback, like a guy who's new to a team, uncomfortable.
Well, and he's getting a lot of pressure in his face, some confusion up front, and obviously we know, and it's been talked about ad nauseum, how poorly the offensive line has played. They need to get some more stability, and if Alex Boone is not in this football game, it's going to be even harder.
That offensive line of the Vikings, he left with an injury. Missed field goal by Gano of 54 yards, kicking off here to Cordero Patterson, who's bringing it out of the end zone. He puts a move inside, runs into a couple of Panthers and gets up to the 22-yard line. And that's where Sam Bradford and the Viking offense, which has done very little in this game, will take over. But let's head down to the field and Jennifer Hale.
Chris, Ron Rivera tells me no halftime treatments for Cam Newton or Thomas Davis concerning their respective ankle and knee injuries. He's happy with how they're performing, but he does want to see Cam Newton make faster decisions this half and see Kelvin Benjamin more involved. Now, Coach Zimmer, much more unhappy. I asked him why they're not throwing that long, deep ball like they did against Green Bay. He said, basically, we have no protection for Sam Bradford. Have to buy him some more time this half, Chris.
Thank you. Alex Boone remains out. Jeremy Searles in at that left guard spot. Jerick McKinnon in the back. Bradford to throw. He has a moment, and he delivers. Catch made going out of bounds. Stephon Diggs, who came in as the top receiver in yardage in the NFL after the first couple of games and hasn't really been that big of a factor.
Well, you talk about protection. Watch 21 right here. We saw him get completely run over earlier, but he's got to be able to do this. Give his quarterback some time to deliver a strike to Stephon Diggs.
Good enough for a first down, up to the 31-yard line.
Hey, here we go, Oakland,
Crowd not making noise here. In fact, a lot of seats empty after the half as McKinnon carries as if they went out for a halftime snack, and the stadium, they haven't come back to their seats. See the openings here.
Well, it's unfortunate because that's only going to serve to help Sam Bradford. Communication is verbal as opposed to nonverbal like you usually have to on the road. It's to your advantage. See if that is a factor here going forward, Chris.
Second down 6. Bradford hit as he throws. McKinnon the catch, but not a first down. Thomas Davis on the play. That 34 total yards of offense for the Vikings in the first half, the lowest for Minnesota since 2005.
Well, like I said, if you're not able to stay on the football field, and they had, what, 7 drives in the first half, 5 of which were 3 and out, that's just not going to get it done.
3rd down and 4. Matt Asiata is in. Good pass blocker, capable receiver. Panthers threaten blitz. Here they come, picked up for a moment, catch made, and it should be good enough. He shoved back, but Kyle Rudolph looked like where he caught it. And it is good enough for a first down.
Good quick decision here by Sam Bradford. And this is what I saw more of last week. Hitting his back foot, letting the ball go, and delivering it to your target on time. This ball is out of his hands even really before Kyle Rudolph turns around. Got the chains moving.
Now 7 out of 14 for Bradford. McKinnon back in.
Set, yeah, 120, 120 hot.
From the 42, Jerick McKinnon squirts up to the 45. Never went down. The knee didn't touch. He used his hand to brace.
That was a cool little run there.
He's only 5'9", so maybe it was tough to tell if he was standing up or not.
Oh, us shorter guys have the advantage of this. And look at that. He keeps his knee off the ground. Just a gritty little player, man. And if you're the Vikings and you're looking for some production in the run game, that's exactly the type of play you want to see.
Matt Asiata in for McKinnon. He gets the carry straight ahead and bursts through down to the 40. A first down for the Vikings. Matt Asiata, one of those reliable players. Cut, brought back to the team, does everything just well enough to make the team. Extra effort. Special teams is how he made it on the roster in the first place.
He is an aggressive downhill type runner, more in the mold of Adrian Peterson. Obviously not that kind of skill set, but he is valuable in so many ways to this football team. As a lead back, as a 3rd down back, as a catcher out of the backfield.
At age 29 was driving a forklift at a warehouse after he got cut. Bradford. Open as Diggs. Steps out of bounds after he caught it at the 25. The best looking offensive drive for this Viking team today.
You got Bradbury following him around here, and I got to tell you what, this is what Stephon Diggs is so good at. Look at that route. And there's not many receivers that I've seen that cannot lose acceleration when they come in and out of breaks. This guy plays fast all the time. Exciting young player.
3rd catch of the day, a guy that Bradford said right away in practice, I knew if I got him the ball, he would hang on to it. I knew he would get open. He did on that play.
120 hot.
McKinnon straight ahead. And looks like a member of the Panthers, Vernon Butler, the rookie, with an injury. Meanwhile, Alex Boone has come back onto the field for the Vikings. And we have a Viking who is injured as well. Injured players helped off the field. On 2nd down for Sam Bradford. Middle of the field caught. That's Diggs again at the 15-yard line, and it was 2 rookies colliding with each other.
Yeah, and you'll see Thomas Davis is involved in this a little bit too. Left side of your screen is 92 Vernon Butler. See his ankle and knee kind of get caught up underneath him, and then there's 89.
David Morgan.
David Morgan, the 3rd tight end rookie, also affected by that collision.
Michael Pruitt is inactive, one of the other tight ends for Minnesota. After picking up the first down, McKinnon with Bradford from the shotgun. Bradford has time for the end zone, and Rudolph, he caught it! Touchdown, Vikings!
Well, you talk about trusting your receivers. And Sam Bradford on this drive was on point. This is what he looked like last week. And it is a similar touchdown to Kyle Rudolph. He was covered, but he delivered it anyways and said, I'm going to let my athlete be better than your athlete, and that's a phenomenal catch.
Shaq Thompson running with him. Shaq Thompson is only about 6 feet, and Kyle Rudolph is 6'6".
And his feet are close there, but
they're confirming.
They got to confirm it. I think they're right. This will show you right here that left foot is inbounds, touchdown.
What a difference in this Viking offense, and it looks like they're going to at least line up to go for 2. It's a 4-point lead if they convert. They'll tack on. Remember the missed extra point. Cordero Patterson and Stephon Diggs are your receivers with McKinnon the back. That's Patterson in motion. McKinnon, he fights his way in and converts for 2. It's now 16-10 Vikings.
What a tough little runner Jerick McKinnon is. Great change of direction skills. 2-footed jump cut. Runs over McLean. They got their 4-point lead here.
Kyle Rudolph now has a touchdown in his last 3 games against the Panthers, and the Vikings have the lead. Kyle Rudolph with the touchdown catch. His wife Jordan expecting twins at any day, at any moment. Anxiously waiting. I heard him say, I hope it's after the game. He's in the end zone, and now the kick. And Ted Ginn is bringing it out of the end zone and knocked down short of the 20-yard line. Another big special teams play. Anthony Harris making it for Minnesota. NFL Play 60 encourages fans to get moving and play for 60 minutes every day. Learn how you can join the movement at NFL.com/Play60. What was the big difference in that Viking offense? I know halftime adjustments are one thing, but that was the best drive of the day without a doubt.
Clearly they went into the locker room and decided to get the ball out of his hands quicker. No more of that down the field, hope your protection holds up type of play calling, and it was very effective. They were also able to run the ball for the first time today.
79 yards on that drive. Remember, they had only 34 total yards in the entire first half. How will the Panthers respond? Here's Cameron Artis-Payne. Knocked down at the 23-yard line. Bradford was 6 out of 6 on that drive for the Vikings. His 3rd touchdown pass as a member of Minnesota.
What a hit by Harrison Smith right there. Came out of nowhere, delivered that strike on Artis-Payne. Guy that can play down in the box. Man, physical defense here in Minnesota.
On 2nd and 6, here comes Cam Newton. Stopped short of the first down.
That's really the first designed run. We saw a draw earlier on a backed up situation, but you get a lot of read option from this team. You get a lot of quarterback power, draw, sweep. But that was the first time his number's been called really in the flow of the football game.
Remember, he had the touchdown run, of course, the only touchdown for Carolina in this game. The Panthers had that string at 100 yards rushing at 29 consecutive games. Right now they're at 64 yards total on the ground. 3rd down and 2. Cam Newton keeps and fights to get the first down.
There's no stopping Cam when he wants to do that. Just no stopping him. For all intents, this should have been a tackle for loss, about 2 or 3 yards, but once Cam Newton gets his legs going, and watch 3 people hit him. Hit him up top, he's not going to go down.
Well, he just runs over Captain Munnerlyn, his former teammate.
Captain Munnerlyn's not up to task there with that size difference. Cam Newton gets the first down. I only kid with Cap size because we're about the same.
I'll let you do the jokes. Cam Newton from the pocket for Ted Ginn. Tangled up with Terrence Newman. And no flags.
Great no call here, Chris. You know, he's looking for the ball. He's playing it too. It looks worse from that angle. But Ted Ginn's got his arm out on him as well. I like when officials don't legislate the game as much. And Terrence Newman told us, right, that he goes to these officials every day before the game,
works them,
talks them up. Ron Rivera is not happy with him.
Yeah, he didn't agree with you. He likes when officials throw flags on pass interference as Cameron Artis-Payne gets up across the 37-yard line again without Jonathan Stewart sharing the running load.
38 years in the league. You know, smart. Do this. Hey, buddy, you know I'm 38. I've been doing this a long time. If you get a play down the sideline and I happen to grab,
Did you do that when you played?
I didn't do that. I never held.
Well, no, I meant try to work the official.
No, I did. Of course I did.
Of course you did.
It's smart, too.
The oldest active corner at age 38. Meanwhile, 3rd and 4. Nothing funny on the Panthers side of things. They're not trailing in the game. Off his back foot for Ed Dixon. Incomplete, but there's a flag. And knocked down was Cam Newton.
Illegal contact. Defense, number 34. 5-yard penalty. Automatic. First down.
The call on safety Andrew Sendejo. I know the Panthers thought if they got Greg Olsen on Sendejo one-on-one that they could take advantage, trying to go to Ed Dixon on that play.
And Ed Dixon ran a little out and up. Out. Cam Newton's waiting for him to get vertical, and Sendejo was out of position. There was a little contact. Good call.
Big penalty, though, on 3rd down. First down now from the 42. Artis-Payne goes into a crowd. Clock running here, nearing the 6.5 mark of the 3rd quarter. Vikings trailed the entire game until this 3rd quarter when Sam Bradford threw a touchdown pass to Kyle Rudolph.
You could feel a concerted effort here by Carolina to run the football. His read option has been in play here. Cam Newton really hasn't been as successful throwing the ball down the field as he was early in the football game. See if they get back to that demeanor, trying to push the ball down the field.
Extra pressure. Whitaker has the catch. Knocked out of bounds. Kelvin Benjamin's been well covered by Xavier Rhodes, who again was inactive, and you talked about it at the beginning of the broadcast. He's been shadowing him much of the game. Benjamin had a couple of penalties early. Has not caught a pass today.
I'll be shocked if he goes through this game without becoming a factor.
He had 2 touchdowns last week and over 100 receiving yards. Whitaker stopped at the 47 of Minnesota.
You know, we talk a lot about Carolina and their running game, but I swear they do so much in terms of window dressing. They're going to bring him back into the backfield and going to run the read option. And look at the pull by Greg Olsen. They just try to confuse your defense, and if you're not playing sound, you're going to get gashed. But Minnesota so far today has been on their keys, keeping this running game in check.
A delay to Whitaker with a big hole, and closes in a hurry. Harrison Smith got there.
Very good play by Harrison Smith. And he, again, I love this guy as the safety, 22 right in the middle here, and Everson Griffin goes way upfield, creates that big gap, but you got a safety that can cover ground like that and is a good tackler. Severely limited that big play opportunity.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to run for a first down. Now spotted at the 44, and it's going to be 3rd, almost 6 yards to go. Mike Zimmer, head coach who calls the defensive plays. A lot of head coaches call the offensive plays. He didn't want to let go of his roots. Cam Newton out of the rush, heaving it out of bounds. Let's get a game break. Check back in with Carissa Thompson.
Thanks, Chris. Arizona at Buffalo. Buffalo looking for their first win of the season. This will help. Tyrod Taylor, 20-yard touchdown run. The Bills' 3rd rushing touchdown today. They missed the extra point. Buffalo up 23-7. Chris?
All right, thanks, Carissa. Here are the Vikings trying to go to 3-0. Carolina trying to win back-to-back home games. Andy Lee on to punt. And we'll try and drop this inside the 10. We saw quite a bit of this in the first half, and it affected the ebb and flow of the game. Right at the 10, fair catch called for by Sherrills, who had the punt return for a touchdown. Cam Newton in the offense stalls. Vikings have the lead, and they have the football. With Rondé Barber, Chris Myers, Jennifer Hale down on the field, and the Vikings, with under 4 minutes to play in the third quarter, have a 6-point lead. Stephon Diggs with 4 catches, 6 targets today. Meanwhile, over on that other sideline, no targets for Kelvin Benjamin. Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata. The workload on the ground with no Adrian Peterson. And McKinnon goes nowhere. Thomas Davis leading the charge.
I'm not sure what was wrong with his knee earlier, but Thomas Davis is putting in some yeoman-like work today. He's been around the quarterback, pressuring him. He's always great in run defense. Great player on this unit. And glad that he's okay.
When he said he gets better like a fine wine, he also mentioned he doesn't drink, never touched alcohol.
Smart man.
And it looks like the crowd is back in their seats and back into this, hoping for the Panther defense. A hold off Bradford. Incomplete. Diggs the target. Well covered by James Bradbury.
James Bradbury, when he gets on the line of scrimmage, he's got those long arms, and I think he's really good. Where he struggles and what he'll learn to do better is play from off. Some of those completions on that last drive, he was off of 14. But when he gets on the LOS, man, he is winning.
The LOS?
Line of scrimmage.
Oh, okay.
Acronym.
From his own end zone, Bradford to Kyle Rudolph, but he'll be short of the first down. And Luke Kuechly, who had 14 solo tackles and an interception last week against the 49ers, was there on the tackle.
That's more like the Carolina defense that we know there. Keep them backed up in this situation. Play good defense on first and second down, and then do whatever you want on third. Keep everything in front of you. Force this backed up punt.
Ted Ginn standing at the 36 of Carolina. Jeff Locke. Ginn waited on it, never waved for the fair catch, and went down in a hurry. Cordero Patterson knocked him down inside the 35. Panthers on offense, trailing by 6.
Back to that last action, and we talked about some poor gunner play earlier. This is great gunner play, splitting the double team, and I'm telling you what, you got speed, get through that mess, make big plays on special teams. Cordero Patterson.
A 50-yard punt and a -1 return. Special teams play big for the Vikings today. From the 34. Artis Payne hit hard, spins around, and got something out of nothing. Two of the better defenses in football. In fact, some think these two teams, when healthy, could play for the NFC Championship. The leading tacklers for Minnesota, Eric Kendricks, former Panther Captain Munnerlyn, who still has a home in the Charlotte area. Daniil Hunter has a sack and a safety in this game. Kelvin Benjamin in the slot looking for his first catch on 2nd and 6. There's time, but Cam Newton doesn't throw it, and he's thrown to the ground. Brian Robinson.
This defensive line is absolutely getting after Cam Newton in this offense right now. Brian Robinson, bottom of your screen down here, and working against Mike Rimmers, just outworks him, just does more. Cam Newton holding on to the football like he has been all day today. You just can't do it against this Vikings defensive front.
Robinson voted a team captain. He sometimes plays the spy on the quarterback. The Vikings have played mobile quarterbacks in Mariota and Aaron Rodgers, and they're doing it again. And he looks like he's in the spy again. On third down, Newton's pass intercepted. Terrence Newman.
Chris, Cam Newton is befuddled right now by Mike Zimmer's defense. They keep giving him this double-A stuff. All this stuff in the middle, junking up his looks. They either drop out or drop it, or rush or drop into coverage. He thinks he has his receiver wide open, but the vet coming up big with the second Viking interception of the day.
8th takeaway this season for Minnesota. The first interception of Terrence Newman's career, and looking sharp at age 38. Gives the ball back to the Vikings, protecting a 6-point lead. Bradford has to unload the screen. That's Rhett Ellison. And Ellison inside the 25 of the Panthers.
I tell you what, Chris, has not Sam Bradford looked so much more calm and relaxed coming out of halftime? And here's Rhett Ellison right here, usually a blocking tight end. Sells it, does a great job selling it, as does Sam Bradford. You get those two big offensive linemen out front, little express for Rhett Ellison, big gainer.
Bradford now over 100 yards passing. Third quarter winding down, already in field goal range. From the 25. McKinnon hesitates and slips down to about the 22-yard line. Vikings will let the clock run out. The interception Cam Newton threw for Terrence Newman, that's the 14th straight season in which he has had an interception. And Cam Newton, who was 9 out of 9 to start the game, now 14 out of 22 with 2 interceptions. The end of the third quarter, the Vikings lead in Charlotte. Dave Barber, Jennifer Hale down on the field, Chris Myers, and hope you're enjoying Week 3 NFL on Fox. Vikings one of 7 unbeaten teams to start the day. The Giants are losing. Baltimore is winning. Denver is winning. Up with the other teams that came into the day undefeated. Bradford on second down completes again. He is now 9 out of 10. Kyle Rudolph on the receiving end and good enough for a first down. 9 out of 10 in this second half.
And his big tight end has been a big factor of that. Kyle Rudolph having a great day today. You know, this offense looks very different than it has in the past under Norv Turner. He loves that Air Coryell type spread type offense, but he also likes a power game. Today, I don't know that we've even seen a fullback. They're opening it up. Let's see if Sam Bradford can go for the knockout punch here down in the red zone.
McKinnon is nowhere. But Norv Turner, who's seen a lot of quarterbacks in his day, he called, when we sat down and talked with him yesterday when they arrived here in Charlotte, he called Bradford an elite quarterback. He didn't hesitate. He said when Bridgewater went down, we looked for quarterbacks, and all we found really that were available were backups. But when we saw we could trade to get him, we knew he was a starter and would step in and do just fine. Bradford completes.
Well, it's not very often you lose your quarterback, right, and are able to get a guy like Sam Bradford, who does have that superstar arm. You know, maybe even an upgrade throwing the football. Teddy Bridgewater is still learning the position. And what he ran in Louisville was not pro style. He's gotten better over the course of his 2 years in the league, but Sam Bradford came in prepared to be the guy that we've seen the last 2 weeks.
On 3rd and 6 from the 10-yard line. Matt Asiato, the running back. Bradford looks to throw, does in the end zone, incomplete. There's a flag down, and Rudolph may have been held. Or he may have pushed off.
Pass interference, offense, number 14. That penalty decline, 4th down.
Offensive pass interference, they'll decline it because it means it's 4th down. And the call was on Diggs, not on Rudolph.
And you'll see it. He just tries to run some interference on Luke Kuechly.
He acted innocent enough.
That was Very blatant, young man.
North
Very
said,
blatant.
yeah, said Stephon Diggs has a little Michael Irvin in him, and that was more about his attitude. And speaking of attitude, Blair Walsh was in a hurry to kick this through. From 28 yards away, an important kick because now it's a 9-point Viking lead. 19 straight points for the Vikings, and it all started with a safety. Bradford had the touchdown pass, now a field goal, a 9-point Viking lead as Blair Walsh gets ready to kick off. Ted Ginn standing in the end zone. Last time he ran it out, this time, and he was stopped short. This time he will down it, so from the 25-yard line comes the Carolina offense. Let's head back down to the field in Jennifer.
Well, Chris, it's good news for this Panthers offense. Ryan Khalil headed back out onto the field now. Independent doctors did give him a check to see if there were any signs of a concussion. He passed that. Head trainer Ryan Vermillion worked through some shoulder soreness with him. And now, after being checked on by Cam Newton as well, he looks ready to go back in the game, Chris.
Well, his brother Matt Khalil of the Vikings out for the season had surgery for a labrum tear in his right hip. Unfortunate the two were looking forward and matching up their teams. Panthers have work to do with Khalil and Cam Newton. From the 25-yard line, the little flip, Ted Ginn. And then a lot of running for very little. Sendejo ran him out. There's a flag down.
Holding, offense, number 73. 10-yard penalty, replay, first down.
That's on Michael Orr on the blind side. 8th penalty accepted against Carolina.
Yep. Got a really long developing play. Michael Orr is right there. Double reverse. Just puts him in space on a long time, and Captain Munderland is a much more agile athlete. He's forced to hold him.
On 1st and 19. Cam Newton is going to go down. Thrown down at the 5-yard line. Everson Griffin.
Well, this Vikings defense is starting to pour it on. Now, 2 bad plays in a row by Michael Orr here and Everson Griffin straight off the edge. This is just speed. This guy is an Energizer bunny anyway. If you don't bend at the waist, he's going under you, and he's sacking your quarterback.
I mean, this offensive line had done a pretty good job last week, and even though he got hit in the opener against Denver, but today the Vikings have been able to get to him. 5 sacks for Minnesota. Ozzie Whitaker out to the 15-yard line. Let's get a game break. Check back in with Kurt Menefee.
Well, remember the bad snap that cost Arizona week 1 against New England? They had another one. This one high on a field goal attempt in Buffalo. Aaron Williams scoops it up 53 yards later. It's good enough for his first NFL touchdown right now. All Bills heading into the fourth quarter, 30-13. Chris, Rhonda, and Jen.
Kurt, that's a shocker, that score. Never underestimate your long snapper or special teams players. Vikings defense using a timeout here. Minnesota, Rondé, came in the first couple of games allowing just 15 points a game. They have a couple of takeaways that obviously gotten to the quarterback. 11:36 to play. Mike Zimmer with a 9-point lead. Don't forget Son of Zorn tonight, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. All new and all exciting. Son of Zorn, catch it on Fox. It's funny, Mike Zimmer was talking about a silver lining when your quarterback goes down and then your top runner and Adrian Peterson and even Khalil on the offensive line. He said, well, one thing it shows our depth had an opportunity, but it also shows our team that they can work through anything.
Adversity, being able to overcome it is a testament to good football teams, and they've done it now 2 years in a row.
Cam Newton is in trouble again, and he is, oh, there comes a flag on that hit. Anthony Barr came in strong.
Holding, offense, number 74.
But the flag not on the hit. on Mike Remmers, the right tackle.
And again, Cam Newton holding the ball a little long, and you're going to see 55. You see him right here on your screen. Just kind of chilling, waiting, and as soon as he knows his quarterback's not getting out of the pocket, he blitz, gets a sack.
6 sacks in the game for the Vikings. From his own end zone, look out Andy Lee. He gets it away, a booming kick. Sherrill's inside the 35 of the Vikings. And Sherrill's, as flags fly, is brought down short of the 39-yard line. Viking penalties were an issue Sunday night against Green Bay. They've only had 4 accepted today, 8 on Carolina.
There's no foul for blocking the back on the play. Timeout.
There's definitely something here by Mackenzie Alexander. I think he feels like he knows he's guilty. Throws his hands up, but no penalty.
Start of the fourth quarter with Rondé Barber, Chris Myers. The flag picked up. Ron Rivera working the officials, saying that looked like a block in the back to me, but a no call. And the Vikings on first down with Jerick McKinnon stopped short of the 38-yard line.
Well, there's definite frustration on this Carolina sideline at this point. You know, it was a close play. I thought it was a block in the back, but you know, after discussion, Jerome Berger and his crew decided it wasn't. So yeah, that can't be an excuse for this team that they're not getting the calls. And to be honest with you, Chris, this doesn't look like the same team that we even saw last week.
And the Vikings, a different offense that we saw in the first half. Bradford open on target for the first down to the 42. It's Rudolph again. For Kyle Rudolph, his 6th catch of the game.
This is what Sam Bradford does really well in my mind. He's able to layer the ball to different parts of the field. This has got to go over the 2 linebackers. Thomas Davis is just a touch late, and just a really well delivered on-time ball. And Kyle Rudolph continues his big day.
59! Hey, Oakland! Orange! That 120! 120 hot!
McKinnon met hard right away. And Kuechly with the tackle. You know, talking about Kuechly and Kyle Rudolph, who he covers him often in this game. Kuechly said he's been covering and playing against him since high school back in Cincinnati, where the two grew up. Whenever they have the chance, they reflect on those younger days and now in the NFL.
Luke Kuechly's doing his job today. Defense has done well on some sudden change situations, some backed up situations. They need to stand up now and get off the football field. This Vikings offense is coming to life.
McKinnon as a receiver, bottom of your screen. Sam goes over the middle again, and somebody needs to cover Kyle Rudolph for Carolina. He's got a first down inside the 30.
Good intermediate route thrower. I'm looking at Sam Bradford, and his biggest strength, it's this. He sees the middle of the field so well, and there's just a little area in that zone between the linebackers, between Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly, and he finds it and drills in a big first down completion again.
I asked Sam Bradford about how much of this offense he knows now going into his second game. He said, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about the game plan for this particular team. And he's figured it out in the second half. McKinnon knocked down right away as the clock continues to run. We mentioned Luke Kuechly. Whenever you talk about the leading tacklers in a game, his name is often at the top of the list. Kuechly's talked about trying to improve his pass rush. He's working on that, something that him and Thomas Davis have talked about.
Again, you just looking at the pictures here, Carolina Panthers, frustration on all their faces. They can't, it's not happening as easily as it normally does for this team, and the success that this Vikings offense is having right now is clearly bothering them.
Well, they bottled up the run here as Minnesota tries to wear down the clock. after a loss of 2. It'll be a timeout for the Vikings.
Their second.
They will have 1 timeout remaining.
Give me
2 of the better teams in the NFC, 2 of the better defenses, and I think some people thought the Vikings were not only playoff contenders but Super Bowl contenders before the injuries. This is only week 3, but this certainly, in terms of defense, looks like a Super Bowl caliber defense.
Just look at the past Super Bowl champions, most recent. And you could say what you want to about Peyton Manning winning on that his last game, but that was his defense. Good defenses win in this league, and Vikings today are showcasing exactly what they are. They have 3 great rushers on the outside. They have some players on the second level that I really love, and their corners are standing up. Haven't heard from Kelvin Benjamin at all today with Xavier Rhodes back in the lineup.
And Viking defense impressive, and actually Carolina, they, among the leaders in takeaways coming into the game, do not have one in this game. Minnesota has 2 takeaways. 2nd down, 12. It'd be a long field goal. They're trying to chip away and chew up the clock. McKinnon gets down inside the 25-yard line. Vikings have 1 timeout remaining. Carolina has all 3, but it's a 2-score game.
Well, at this point, the clock becomes your enemy if you're Carolina. They need a stop. They absolutely need to get off the field here, force this field goal opportunity, and then give yourself enough time to get these two scores. They're going to win this football game. Crowd needs to come alive right now. They've been somewhat dormant. See if they help their Panthers out right now.
On 3rd down and 5, Sam Bradford for Adam Thielen. There's a flag down with one hand. He made that catch.
Wow, Chris, what a catch this was. And we got to check on these flags, but Sam Bradford has been very good in this second half.
Holding. Defense, number 27. That penalty is declined. After the play is over, delay of game, offense, number 82, for spiking the ball in the field of play. 5-yard penalty, still 1st and goal.
Well, there was the hold, as minimal as it was, but the throw was just sublime there by Sam Bradford, and the one-handed catch. Fantastic. Adam Thielen's a guy now, been primarily a special teams guy.
Now, is that really a penalty? He's excited? That's not really a spike, is it?
You know what? You're not allowed to in the field of play, and that's exactly how they called it. That's exactly what the penalty was. And can show excitement. You cannot spike the ball.
Terrific catch. Penalty backs him up, and a lose yardage. McKinnon went down as soon as he got the football. Star Latulele buried him.
Well, I think that was K1 short with that penetration, Chris. But again, this Carolina defense has been up against the wall, literally up against the wall all afternoon, here, or at least here in the second half. They got to stop on their last possession. I think it's imperative that they get a stop here on this one.
Time of possession, second half favoring the Vikings. It was the opposite in the first half. Matt Asiata, after a loss of 4, is the running back. Thielen in motion. Asiata carries straight ahead. And under 6 minutes to play, it'll bring up 3rd and goal. Viking offense came alive in the second half, and you talked about Sam Bradford and the adjustments by North Turner, getting rid of the ball quicker. Look at the yardage difference, and on the scoreboard, enough to build a 9-point lead.
Oh, he didn't have many yards in the first half, but what he also did not have was any turnovers. This is a team with the defense that they play. If you don't give the ball away, they got a chance to win every week.
Bradford gets rid of it.
Well, I know they're off the field, but he missed Thielen. He is wide open here in the end zone. Nobody cover him. Trey Boston let go of primary coverage, and if Sam Bradford has one more second, he's going to find him, and that's going to be a touchdown.
Blair Walsh, who made from 28 yards, but did miss an extra point. Now, I know at home he likes the dark screen, dark on the video board. Fans waving, Walsh delivering on the road. And now it's a 12-point Viking lead. Just over 5 minutes to play. Hope that Adrian Peterson feels get well to Adrian Peterson after the surgery and put on the injured list. Touchback, 25-yard line. Carolina still a 2-score game. Just over 5 minutes to play for Cam Newton and the Panthers. Viking offense making an adjustment. The defense in the second half as well, making it tougher on Cam Newton. Open on target. That's Ed Dixon, the tight end.
You saw that
45-yard line.
Sorry about that, partner. You saw that graphic right before that play. 7 yards of passing in the second half for Cam Newton. Again, I've been saying he's been holding on to the football well too long, taking too many hits, 6 sacks. That was a well-delivered quick pass to Ed Dixon to get this drive off to a fast start.
Gain of 23 yards on first down. Tipped but caught. Greg Olsen going to the ground with the reception. Not a first down, but in Viking territory.
And they're back into this hurry up, chase the game mode here, Carolina, and they have to be. 4.5 minutes left in this football game. Never really lose a game, Chris. You just run out of time, and they're running out of time quickly.
2nd and 3 for Devin Funchess. Got a hand on it. Coverage was good by Rhodes.
The throw is just a touch shorter. This is a big play. He had 2 or 3 steps on Xavier Rhodes, and Devin Funchess just can't bring it in one-handed.
Cam Newton, 12 game-winning drives in his career, including 4 last year. And that would have helped get him closer had they connected. Funchess does not have a catch today, and again, I keep bringing it up, but neither does Kelvin Benjamin. Still not targeted, Kelvin Benjamin. Delay a game.
Delay of game. Offense, number 1. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
Well, that's going to frustrate everybody. How does that happen in hurry-up offense?
They didn't hurry up enough.
They did not. I know it was a long incompletion down the field. Devin Funchess stayed in the game, so. But you got to figure here, Chris, they are in 4-down territory. They need 2 scores. They have to get something going right now.
And just over 4 minutes to go. 3rd and 8 pressing at the moment. Extra pressure. Cam Newton is on target for the first down. Corey Brown. Let's get another game break check in with Kurt Benefield.
Well, the Lions were once down 31-3 at Lambeau, but right now they're staging a comeback. Matthew Stafford to Marvin Jones, his second hookup between the two. And now it's 34-27 with 3:22 left to go. Chris, Rondé, and Jen.
Thanks, Kurt. Fans of the Vikings watching that one closely, keeping an eye out in the NFC North. Packers and Lions. For the NFC South, Monday night, the Saints and Falcons play. Tampa Bay a little later with the Rams. Cam Newton is hit. He held on to it amazingly, but Harrison Smith on a safety blitz.
Just so much pressure on Cam Newton. Look at this. Look at all those bodies at the line of scrimmage. 8 guys up there. One of them drops back. There's nobody to come across the formation to block Harrison Smith. Free runner. And yes, Chris, you are right. I don't know how he held on to that football.
That is the 7th sack by the Vikings today. Ted Ginn. There's a flag, and he's knocked down at the 39-yard line. Trey Wayne's active. You know, he came in as the team's leading tackler. I know there's been some chatter about his coverage skills and pass interference, but Mike Zimmer's got depth in that secondary.
Oh, he can cover now, Chris.
Pass interference. Offense, number 88. 10-yard penalty. Replay, 2nd down.
It's just with Trey Waynes, his ability to make plays on the ball. And we saw that interception earlier, but here you go. Another penalty.
Another injury. That's Kendricks. Eric Kendricks being helped.
And you'll see 88 right there. Before the ball is caught, he's blocking downfield. Now that's legal if it's within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. But since he took 3 or 4 steps up the field, you know, they got it right.
And Kendricks, one of the keys to this Viking defense in his 2nd year from UCLA, a guy that Mike Zimmer talked about being more comfortable, more vocal for this defense headed to the sideline.
And he's a good football player. You know, they have the benefit, the luxury of having Chad Greenway, who's really turned into a part-time player on this defense now, who can fill right in and be that Mike linebacker that Eric Kendricks is now that he's out. Hopefully he's okay. He's back into this game shortly.
So push back to their own 49 on 2nd down and 26. And if it is 4-down territory, they're going to have to chip away on these 3 downs. And the Vikings know that. Open is Olsen, and he picks up a lot right there, getting down to the 35-yard line of the Vikings.
The Vikings are playing such soft defense right there, and good job by Cam Newton identifying the weakness or the softness of that coverage and delivering, getting half of that penalty yardage back right here.
16-yard pickup, now 3rd and 10. Need to get to the 25. Cam Newton has room to run. He'll get a 1st down and go out of bounds untouched.
That was a good job by Cam there, Chris. There was nothing available, and the pocket continues to collapse around him, but you know, when he's able to get out of the pocket and run, he's going to pick up some yardage.
Wisely stopping the clock. We have another injured player. It's Captain Munnerlyn. We hope that Munnerlyn is okay. Friends on both sides. The story of this Viking defense, the pressure they've been able to put on Cam Newton with 7 sacks, 1 including a safety.
It started early, but it has done nothing but intensify in the 2nd half. Up front, whether it was the front line, the front 4, whether it was those linebackers or Harrison Smith, they have been getting after this Panthers offense, and they really haven't had an answer for it today, Chris.
As they tend to Munnerlyn, that run by Cam Newton, that's now 30 straight games that this Panther team has rushed for more than 100 yards. That's the longest active streak in that department of the NFL.
That is a heck of a streak, though. I don't think that they very much mind about that continuation.
Well, they did it without Jonathan Stewart today.
Yeah.
But they're down 12. All 3 timeouts. Munnerlyn being helped and now moving, taking himself to the sideline. So with Rhodes and Waynes and Newman as your corners, see if Vikings drop extra people in the secondary. Marcus Sherrills comes in, had the punt return. He's a reserve defensive back, knowing that the Panthers need 2 scores and 2:44 to play. We'll have the 2-minute warning, and Carolina will have 3 timeouts. Cam Newton high for Corey Brown. Four touchdown passes last week in the win over the 49ers, none today for Cam Newton, but he is over 230 yards through the air. Of course, he ran for a score. And the State Farm postgame show coming up. All the highlights, scores, brought to you by State Farm. For Greg Olson, he can't catch up to it. No flags. A couple of Vikings were running with him. One of those was Marcus Sherrills. And Olson slow to get up.
And he might be hurt too. Just, it's hot down there. I'm not sure that some of these injuries aren't being caused by some dehydration, cramping, whatnot.
Temperature in the mid-80s as the day wore on, humid. And this is the first weekend in the fall, but the heat index, you couldn't tell that. 3rd down and 10. He rifles it, incomplete, was trying to go to Benjamin, and they were obviously crossed up, and Sherrills had a chance to pick it.
Complete miscommunication there. Kelvin Benjamin is running through to the end zone, and Cam Newton throws it like it's a back shoulder throw here, and Marcus Sherrills should have intercepted this. Watch this. Kelvin Benjamin continues his pattern here, and the ball is already out.
That's the first target for Kelvin Benjamin today. Cam's looking like, now what, on 4th and 10. Play clock running down. You'd hate to waste a timeout, so you got to snap it just in time. Blitz. Cam gets rid of it, and it's intercepted. Tom Johnson fumbles on the back end of the interception, but the Vikings maintain possession. Cam was under pressure and just tried to get rid of it, and Johnson from the defensive line with a grab.
Well, here again, you have about 8 guys at the line of scrimmage, and just 97 is going to come right here on a little game inside. Nobody blocks him. That's just confusion, an ill-advised attempt to get rid of the ball by Cam Newton, and Minnesota has their 3rd interception of the day. Now, if you're wondering about change of possession, they have the ball now, so
if nobody recovers and it goes out of bounds, it still belongs to the Vikings.
Yes, and this the element of a catch rule comes into play here for the defensive tackle there. He had it long enough, took 2 steps with it, so they are in possession.
All turnovers reviewed. Matt Asiata, the carry. And unless the Panthers stop the clock, and they do, so they will have 2 timeouts remaining. And an additional timeout at the 2-minute warning.
Cam came into this game, or started this game, he came into it as well, playing really good. He was hot to start, 7 for 7, and the frustration is clear on last year's MVP's face right there. This Vikings defense did a great job just harassing him and putting him on the ground.
The Panthers' home winning streak of 14 straight victories is in trouble here. And Rondé, I don't think we can ignore the fact of what went on in and around the city this week. And Charlotte's a great city, and certainly the fans coming to this game. But as a player, this is your home. It's in your backyard. I'm not taking anything away from the Vikings' performance today. And you said at the beginning, it has to have some effect as Jerick McKinnon carries.
I somewhat agree with you, Chris, and I'm not going to excuse it for them. But this is not the team that we saw last week, and it could have an effect. We don't know. I'm sure something we could find out later.
Panthers use their 2nd timeout, 10 seconds before the 2-minute warning. 3rd down and 7. Bradford willing to put it up. He flips to Matt Asiata, who won't get the 1st down. The clock will run to the 2-minute mark. Bonus coverage coming up of the Giants and Redskins. It's a 2-point game there. That'll follow our game here. The Vikings trying to ice it to go to 3-0 in Carolina. Fourth down, protecting a 12-point lead. Viking fans that have made it here watching the Jeff Locke punt, and it bounces into the end zone. Bonus coverage of the Redskins and Giants coming up. 2-point game. Troy Aikman, Joe Buck continuing on Fox. And back to the Carolina situation, and this is not an excuse because the Vikings played and have been terrific today, especially on defense. But the Panthers, this is their home. This is their backyard. They're humans. It has to have some effect.
And not only that, Chris, a lot of them live in this area. It's close. They practice here. They play and practice here. The practice facility's right around the corner. So they're having had dealt with that all week long. And I know their practice schedule was uninterrupted. They came in as usual. But I think it had to have some kind of psychological effect. Now, what I do appreciate about this city of Charlotte is the way they responded. This stadium was full. They didn't let the potential of protest outside affect the way they came to the game today, and they rooted on their team. Now, saying that, Vikings came here with a purpose, and they have played outstanding football today, Chris.
They've been difficult on Cam Newton, as Whitaker with a gain up to the 34 and a first down. And the Panthers, just like the Vikings, when there was talk that this game might be rescheduled, moved back, relocated, they all, players, coaches, know we need to play this game. Football brings people together, and it did today inside this stadium.
Couldn't agree with you more there, Chris.
Again, Whitaker, the dump off. He gets out of bounds. One timeout, Carolina. 1:20 to play.
Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could, get a score, move the ball down here, get a score, get an onside kick. But they're going to have to do it chunk by chunk with no time, with only one timeout left. Because Minnesota, I mean, if you look at Harrison Smith right here, he might be, I don't even know, 35 yards from the line of scrimmage. No big play is happening against this unit right now.
Open in the middle of the field, but he dropped the football. And is that a fumble? There was no ruling of an incompletion on the field. It is another Viking takeaway. They will review it, as all turnovers are. Did he have it long enough?
Well, he's going to try to say he didn't, but I think he had it.
The rule on the field is an incomplete pass, third down.
All right, well, they didn't show that.
To us, it looked like it was. You see it in slow motion, and this is the definition of bang, bang, right? And if it's bang, bang, the officials have been coached to call that an incompletion, and that's what you got there. The ball and the defender arrive somewhat simultaneously, and that's why you got the incompletion and not the turnover. Bang, bang. I like that terminology.
All right, well, we're under 2 minutes, so they'll review it upstairs automatically, which they should, and if he gives the thumb up, that means they stay with the call on the field. It's a 2 thumbs up.
See, we sometimes know what we're talking about, Chris.
And our director, Mike Frank, producer Michael Burks, keep an eye on that, because the league works through many different people to relay so that we understand what the officials see or don't see, as is sometimes his case in the game that we've had filled with penalties here. 10 called on the Panthers, 5 accepted against the Vikings.
This Carolina team, they won big last week against San Francisco, Chris, but it was a sloppy game. And today it really was kind of the same.
Cam Newton holding the ball again and sacked again. Inside the 20, and it's Everson Griffin again. 8 sacks for the Vikings to go with 3 interceptions.
Well, this is a game they're going to look back on and try to forget immediately. If I'm Carolina, I might put this film in the trash, not even look at it. There was just so much that did not go right for this team, and he'd been so well. Yeah, thanks, Michael Frank. That's exactly where I would put it. But they were playing so well pass protecting Cam Newton, but today 8 sacks. I mean, wow, that's just unheard of on a guy that's as elusive and powerful as Cam Newton is.
Corey Brown, but can he get the first down? A swarm of purple brings him down. Redskins Giants, it's a 1-point game We'll take you to that game in just a bit, celebrating on the sideline. The Viking defense took the highest scoring team in the NFL, not only from the start of this year, but going back to last year, and a home team, Carolina, that had been averaging 40 points a game and held them to 10 points and did the job on the defending NFL MVP, Cam Newton.
It certainly didn't feel like that early, did it, Chris, with the way that Minnesota's offense was struggling against that Carolina defense, but there were some major adjustments at halftime by that offense of the Vikings, and their defense turned it on too, and we got a victory on the road for the Minnesota Vikings.
Last time the Vikings started 3-0 was 2009, a year they also won the division. They'll host the Giants next Monday night with a perfect record. And the Panthers slipped to 1-2. We'll have more from Charlotte in just a moment.